gentlemen, thank you all for being here for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. Before we get started, would everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag? And Councilwoman McDonough, could you lead us? But before we get started, Susie, as you all probably heard, a 2001 graduate of the Mohawk High School who lived in our community, Mohawk Carmel community for many years, he passed away in a horrible accident in Alaska last week. His name is Michael Kozlowski. He was 35 years old. He leaves behind a wife and 4 children. It was a crane collapse accident in the town of Homer in Alaska. He was a chief warrant officer for the Coast Guard for many, many years, so he's a career Coast Guardsman. And we're all saddened by his loss and his untimely passing. And please keep him and his family in your thoughts and prayers, and the entire Mohawk community mourns his loss. So, thank you so much. Susie?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence to remember all the men and women who are fighting for our freedom. Thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
Yep.
Okay, thank you all for attending tonight's meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. I apologize that we're coming out here almost 20 minutes late. We were in executive session with 2 matters. One was a litigation update from Councilman Schneider, and the second one was Supervisor Schmidt to update the town board on the Mohawk Bank contractual ongoing contract negotiations. So tonight's town board meeting is a voting meeting, and for the record, all town board members are present with us this evening, as is our town clerk, Ann Spofford, all the way down on my right, and down on my left is Greg Fulchetti. He's the Carmel Town Council. So we have 17 items on the agenda this evening, and the first item is resolution number 1, is make an appointment to the Town of Carmel Planning Board. Councilman Schneider, would you read resolution 1, please?
Be it resolved that the town board of the Town of Carmel hereby appoints Adam Bezuljevic to the Town of Carmel Planning Board for a term commencing immediately and expiring December 31st, 2025. I hope the resolution is read.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I'll second that also. And roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes, with apologies.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes, with pleasure.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes,
And
with
Supervisor-
pleasure.
And Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, also with pleasure. We have Adam here with us tonight in attendance. Adam is our newest member of the Town of Carmel Planning Board. So we interviewed other candidates, and we selected Adam from that field of candidates. And we wish you the best of luck serving on the planning board. I know you're going to do great work. We're all very excited to see you get started on the board. And Craig Papri, who is the chairman of the planning board, he'll be in touch with you. And Rose Trombett, I don't know if you met Rose yet or not, up in the planning department, or Dawn. They can help you with any questions as well. So, and you will have to take the oath, right? Correct, Ann?
Correct.
And our clerk's going to have to administer the oath of office.
And Adam, we had some really serious, great candidates.
Yeah.
So it's a compliment to you. We had a real outpouring of really great people.
Yeah. And the Mohawk High School graduate, too, right?
Yes.
Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thanks.
All
Congratulations.
the best. Yes, congrats.
Thank you.
Okay, next resolution, resolution number 2 is a resolution authorizing entry into contracts. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 2?
Sure. Whereas appropriations have been made in the 2019 town budget for entry into various contracts for the provision of various services to the town of Carmel, and whereas said contracts are on file in the office of the town supervisor for the inspection and review of all town board members. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Carmel hereby authorizes the town supervisor to enter into and execute on behalf of the town contracts with the following contractors for the services indicated in the amount not to exceed that's set forth below. I'm going to read the contractor name, the services, and then the contract amount. The Mohawk Falls Volunteer Fire Department for Fire Protection District Number 1 in the amount of $794,000. Mohawk Volunteer Fire Department, Inc., Fire Protection District Number 2 in the amount of $1,225,000. Carmel Fire District and Carmel Fire Department, Inc., Fire Protection District Number 3 for $803,000 and $803,500. Carmel Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Ambulance Services, Carmel Ambulance District Number 1 for $150,000. North Salem Volunteer Ambulance Corps, Ambulance Services, Carmel Ambulance District Number 1, $12,900. Putnam County Society for Protection of Cruelty to Animals, Inc., Animal Cruelty Prevention Services for $7,500. Putnam County Humane Society, Inc., for Dog Sheltered Services and Dog Control Services in the amount of $50,635. Reed Memorial Library for Library Services, $25,000. Mahopac Library, Library Services for $60,000. And County of Putnam for Outreach Worker, $5,000. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, just looking at one thing here. Okay, just one amendment to this under Putnam County Society for Protection of Cruelty to Animals. That word should be prevention of cruelty to animals. Prevention. I know it's listed prevention here, but under contract name,
Oh, protection?
protection should be prevention.
I second the amendment.
Can you amend that? All right, Councilman Lupinacci, it's a typo.
Yep.
Seconded
Okay.
that amendment. It's correct in under services provided.
Okay,
So that was the
perfect.
only, so roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 3, is a resolution authorizing rescheduling of a public hearing on a local law amending Chapter 111 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Peddling and Soliciting, and it's being rescheduled to March 20th, 2019. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read that, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the rescheduling of a public hearing to be held on the 20th day, March 2019, at 7 p.m. or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a local law amending Chapter 111 of the Town Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Peddling and Soliciting. And be it further resolved that the town clerk, Ann Spofford, is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official newspaper of the town and on the town bulletin board regarding this public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. The next item, number 4, I believe it's appropriate that Councilman Borelli read it.
Yes, finally. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the Office of the Town Engineer to issue a solicitation of proposals for the purchase and installation of audio, video, and broadcast transmission equipment and purposes for the Town of Carmel Video Control Room, meeting rooms, and conference room. I offer this resolution as read so the people at home can hear what we're doing.
I second it.
I'll second that, too.
Yeah.
Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 5, is a resolution authorizing hiring of a part-time employee in the Town of Carmel Assessor's Office. Councilman Schneider, would you read 5, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Assessor Glenn A. Drosy, hereby authorizes the hiring of Amanda B. Clarisi as real property appraiser of the Office of the Town Assessor on a part-time basis commencing immediately at an hourly rate of $25 per hour and not to exceed 19 hours per week. I offer the resolution as read.
Second.
Oh, no. I'll think about that. Okay, seconded by who?
Me.
Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution 6 is a resolution authorizing payment for vehicle repairs for the Town of Carmel Highway Department. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 6, please?
Yes. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simone, hereby authorizes repairs to a 2003 John Deere Loader No. 1 performed by Jesco in Beacon, New York, in accordance with the memorandum dated January 13th, 2019, at an estimated cost not to exceed $14,940.70. Be it further resolved, the Town Supervisor, Kenneth Schmidt, is hereby authorized to sign any and all documentation necessary to authorize the actions contained herein. And be it further resolved, the Town Comptroller, Mary Ann Maxwell, is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carries. This is one of our large rubber tire loaders that load material into the back of dump trucks. Salt, sand, crushed rock, item 4, things like that. So it's a very large machine. It's a 2003 John Deere, but it's one of our larger loaders. So the price that you see here, the $14,940, is a good price for them to make the necessary repairs on that particular piece of equipment, because it's a very expensive piece of equipment. So it makes sense to repair it and at that cost. Okay, next, resolution number 7 is a resolution authorizing emergency purchase of snowplow equipment for the Town of Carmel Highway Department. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read that, please? Number 7.
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simoni, hereby authorizes the emergency purchase of snowplow blades and related appurtenances for the Town of Carmel Highway Department from Chungma Supply, Elmira, New York, at a cost not to exceed $24,836.95, and in accordance with the invoice dated December 30th, 2018, in accordance with the New York General Municipality Law of 103, Section 4, and be it further resolved that the Town Comptroller, Mary Ann Maxwell, is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this resolution. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Borelli. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 8, is a resolution making a permanent appointment to the Town of Carmel Recreation and Parks Department. Councilman Borelli, would you read 8, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby appoints Nancy Slattery to the position of Senior Typist/Senior Office Assistant on a permanent basis, effective immediately and subject to the provisions of Civil Service Law and the Civil Service Rules and Regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, resolution number 9 is a resolution authorizing the renewal of a licensing agreement with ASCAP. Councilman Schneider, would you read 9, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the renewal of the license agreement with ASCAP for public performances of copyrighted music for the year 2019 in form and content as is on file in the Office of the Director of Recreation and Park at an annual rate of $357, and be it further resolved that the James Gilchrist, Director of Recreation and Parks, is hereby authorized to sign any necessary documentation and/or reports concerning said renewal on behalf of the Town of Carmel. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough for the James Gilchrist. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 10, is a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for summer bus transportation program for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Suzie, would you read 10, please?
Shall resolve that pursuant to the request, or of the request of James R. Gilchrist, Director of Recreation and Parks, Town Clerk Ann Spotford is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for bus transportation for the Town of Carmel Recreation and Parks 2019 Summer Camp Program. And be it further resolved that the Director of Recreation and Parks is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the Town Clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 11, is a resolution authorizing for advertising for bids for the purchase and supply of chemicals for wastewater treatment plants Carmel Sewer Districts 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and Carmel Water Districts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12. Councilman Lupinacci?
You just
You
read
want
it.
to just paraphrase?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various water and sewer districts within the Town of Carmel pursuant to the request of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., hereby authorizes Town Clerk Ann Spofford to advertise for bids for the purchase and supply of chemicals for the wastewater treatment plant serving Carmel Sewer District 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12, and the water treatment facility serving Carmel Water Districts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12, and be it further resolved that the town engineer is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the town clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
I'll second it. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried.
One question I do have is, 14 Water District 14 doesn't use any of the chemicals? Or Sewer District 1 doesn't include chemicals?
District 1 is run by the city, we don't buy their chemicals.
Well, that's one, so how about Water District 14?
Water 14.
Water 14
1,
is
2,
not
3, 4,
included.
5, 6, 7, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'll ask the engineer.
Yeah.
That's fine. Maybe it's certain chemicals that are used in some plants and some don't.
There's actually 9 is off of here too.
Yeah.
Water 9. 14, so maybe we'll check with Rich.
Thank you.
All right. All right, next resolution, number 12, is a resolution authorizing extension of sludge hauling contract for Carmel Sewer Districts 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Councilman Borelli, would you read 12, please?
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of Carmel Sewer Districts 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, had previously authorized the entry into a contract for sludge hauling bid to Residuals Management Services, doing business as Earth Care, Vernon, New Jersey, for the reference Carmel Sewer Districts on May 3rd, 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of Carmel Sewer Districts 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and upon the recommendation of Richard Franzetti, P.E. Town Engineer, the Town Board hereby authorizes the extensions of the existing sludge hauling contract with bid to Residuals Management Services, doing business as Earth Care, Vernon, New Jersey, for the reference Carmel Sewer Districts for a 2-year aggregate period commencing July 23rd, 2019 through July 22nd, 2021. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 13, is a resolution authorizing purchase of variable message boards. Councilman Schneider?
Resolved.
Read that, please.
Yes, with pleasure.
Yeah.
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., hereby authorizes the purchase of 2 variable message boards from Glencoe Supply, Inc. of Oakhurst, New Jersey, pursuant to General Municipal Law 103, subsection 16, at an overall cost not to exceed $32,634.28, and in accordance with the invoice dated September 20th, 2018. And be it further resolved that Town Supervisor Kenneth Schmidt is hereby authorized to sign all necessary documents required to purchase said items as authorized herein, and be it further resolved that the Town Comptroller, Mary Ann Maxwell, is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget revisions to effect the aforesaid purchase transactions authorized herein. I offer the resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, and I'm very, very happy that we're getting these variable message boards. I hope we don't have to use them too often, but if we have to, we'll have them. It's part of our resources now to get messages out to the public in a timely manner, and making them aware of different things that they need to be alerted to during times, not only times of emergencies, but when we have outages that are related to storm events and dry ice and water becomes available, we'll be able to disseminate that information to the public so they understand clearly where they need to go and times that they need to be available, so I'm glad, Jonathan, this is something that you supported also.
For many,
For
many
many
years.
years, yeah.
Ever since Sandy with spray-painted plywood being
Yes.
driven around town.
Yeah.
I've been a very vocal
You
piece
mean
trying to
that-
get this done, so I'm excited about this.
And
This is
then,
great.
then when the plywood was nailed on the pole, nailed up onto the pole on Route 6,
Yeah.
but yeah, so this is great that we're getting these, and it's actually coming in on the budget, too.
Much, yeah, because we were estimating 20,000 for each one.
Each one,
So it's
yeah.
about 16 and change now.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, so,
Vast improvement.
yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Next, resolution number 14 is a resolution waiving the notice of requirement in section 64 of the Alcohol Beverage Control Law with respect to a liquor license for Clam Restaurant LLC. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 14?
Sure, whereas the representatives and/or proprietors of Clam Restaurant LLC, 957 Route 6, Mohawk, New York, 10541, have advised of the intention to apply for an on-premises liquor license for which 30 days advance notice of such application must be sent to the municipality. And whereas the notice required by Article 5 of the Alcohol Beverage Control Law may be waived by the town board. And whereas the Town of Carmel Town Board does not intend to comment upon the application referred to herein. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby waives the 30-day notice requirement contained in Article 5 of the Alcoholic and Beverage Control Law and states that it does not intend to offer any comments regarding said application for a liquor license at the premises referred to herein. And be it further resolved, the town clerk, Ann Spotford, is hereby authorized to sign a waiver of said notice on behalf of the town of Carmel. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 15, is a resolution authorizing payment for repairs. Councilman Lupinacci, would you read 15, please?
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of various water and sewer districts for the Town of Carmel, and upon the recommendation of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, hereby authorizes the following payments for repairs performed within the reference district. I'll be reading the vendor name or the contract name. I will be reading the service rendered and the district, then the dollar amount and the invoice date. Empire State Electric for Carmel Sewer District Number 4, Lake Shore Pump Station, $11,000. The invoice date is 12/27/18. The next one is Evan Septic, Carmel Sewer District Number 4, Lake Shore Pump Station, $8,587.50, December 24th, 2018. Evans Septic, Carmel Sewer District Number 4, Lake Shore Pump Station, $7,612.50, December 29, 2018. Ed Cook Excavating, Carmel Water District 2, Wyndham Lane Saddle Repairs, $13,224.50, December 27th, 2018. Ed Cook, Carmel Water District 2, Wyndham Lane Saddle Repairs, $5,994 on December 28th, 2018. Legacy Supply, Carmel Water District 2, Wyndham Lane Water Main Break, $10,586.21, December 22nd, 2000, I believe that's 18, not 16? It should be 18, so I'm going to amend it as read for for December 22nd, 2018. And then the last vendor is B&J Plumbing, Carmel Water District 4, Lake Baldwin Pump Station, $6,213.14 on January 7th, 2019. Be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Marian Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget revisions to affect the aforesaid purchase transactions or repair transactions authorized herein. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Borelli. Councilwoman McDonough, roll call vote?
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried, thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 16, is a resolution authorizing additions and deletions to the active list of the Mohawk Volunteer Fire Department. Councilman Borelli, would you read 16?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the addition of the following names to the active list of the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department: Crew Connolly, Isabel Selka, and Marlena Whitbeck. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the deletion of the following names to the active list of the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department: Michael Armistad. I offer this resolution as read and say welcome to the new people and thank you for the people that are leaving.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, our 17th and final resolution for this evening is a resolution setting the 2019 salary for Town of Carmel Police Chief Mike Kazari. Councilman Schneider, would you read 17, please?
If I could, just in regards to the resolution that we just passed for number 16, I think it's, one, important to note the value that these members offer to our community. Two, given events that happened a couple weeks ago, people who volunteer sometimes have to actually respond to their own house. We had our local fire chief had to respond from a call right back to his own house on the 20th of January. Fortunately, his son was able to knock down the fire before they came, and they were able to at least save everything that was inside the house. But the training that they get is imperative. The people that they're saving is not just our neighbors and our friends and our classmates, coworkers, employees. It could be your own house. So if you have time, if you have an ability, if you just want some camaraderie, the fire department is a great place to get it. We need all the volunteers that we can get. And unfortunately, it may be your house that you're going to one day. So thankfully, the Nickershire family has extensive training.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that he's been putting out fires since he's knee-high to a grasshopper. But I think it's great that we have that involvement in the community. We get the volunteers, but we always need to keep those volunteers coming. It's such a valuable part. We would never be able to afford a paid fire department. So thank you to all the volunteers, and just keep up the great work and keep signing up.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you, Jonathan.
So resolution number 17, without further ado, resolution setting 2019 salary for Town of Carmel Chief of Police. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby establishes the annual salary for Town of Carmel Chief of Police Michael S. Kazari for fiscal year 2019 at $172,000, effective retroactive to January 1st, 2019. I offer the resolution as read.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Lupinacci. Roll call vote.
Councilman Borelli?
Yes.
Councilman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Lupinacci?
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, that completes the agenda items for this evening's Town Board voting meeting. Is there any residents or anyone that's here that would like to come up and comment on any of the agenda items that we just voted on this evening? Come on up at this time.
John Butler from Carmel. The agenda item is number 1, the planning board appointment. Has nothing to do with you whatsoever. It's just an item involving the planning board. So thanks to Councilman Borelli a couple of weeks ago, got a heads up that a memo was presented by Cleary Consulting to the planning board entitled, it was dated November 11th, 2018. It was presented to the planning board on January 23rd, 2019, and it's entitled Multifamily Housing Zoning.
Hey, John?
Yes.
This is new business. This is not, you're not discussing the appointment of the Town of Carmel Planning Board member. So you should have come up during the new business portion of the meeting.
Okay, so we'll be...
Which will be next.
Okay.
But let me just
I'll
see,
do that.
and I apologize,
That's fine.
but
That's fine.
that should be covered under that.
That's fine.
And that, okay, thanks, Jim.
I'll be back.
Okay. Is there anyone here, I'm sorry, for agenda items only at this time that would like to come up, that we voted on this evening? Come on up at this time. Come on up, John.
I'm getting my
We're-
steps
we're-
in. I have my
Yeah.
little wrist thing. It's
We're,
good.
we're under new business now.
Okay.
Open forum.
So, I'm still John Butler from the Hamlet of Carmel, and I'm going to be talking about a memo that was submitted by Mr. Cleary to the Planning Board on January 23rd, 2019. The memo was dated November 11, 2018, and it's entitled Multifamily Housing Zoning. I don't know whether any of you folks are familiar with this memo, whether you've seen it, whether you've read it. Again, I only found out about it because Mr. Borelli mentioned that 2 weeks ago this meeting was occurring next door. So I made a point of going to the, the agenda for the planning board that night. I'm gonna try to summarize the position very quickly. Unfortunately, starting probably 8 or 9 years ago, I was waiting for this day to come. I knew it was coming. And basically what this memo was saying, and as far as with all due respect to Mr. Cleary, this is one of the most specious documents I think I've read in a long time. It's incredibly inaccurate. It's incredibly prejudiced. And at the end of the day, the conclusion is a recommendation, essentially, that the multi-unit zoning law that was in effect 18 years ago, 2002, and was essentially supplanted by the new 3-acre zoning law, now be brought back. The only exception to that zoning law is for 55-plus senior housing, which we all know about, projects approved, never built. At the end of the day, and again, I'm not going to break this down because it's too lengthy to do so here, but I would recommend you folks and everyone in this town look at this memo and see what it says. And it says that the town can be subjected to the building of multi-unit apartment rental units throughout the town. Wherever there's a 55-plus approved project or potentially approved project, that's now no longer going to be restricted to 55-plus. That can be an apartment complex. And again, I'm just going to point out a couple of changes that they're also suggesting to the 2002 zoning law for multifamily units. The 2002 zoning law said that as follows, that what is considered, hold on, just bear with me 1 second, I wrote it out there. A multi-unit family project in 2002 in the old law was one that defined a multifamily project as a residential structure of not more than 2 stories, garden style, okay? One of the changes in the zoning law that's going to be suggested now to facilitate the multifamily is a couple of things. Number one, in the old law, it said that there has to be at least 10 acres for a multifamily development of 39 or fewer units. That's to be changed to 5 acres. But most importantly, most significant, and remember what the existing definition is, that the new zoning law will be changed to say that the building height for a multifamily development of 40 or more units shall not exceed 40 feet. That, folks, sounds like 4 stories to me. Okay, so this is what this memo is concluding. Now, I'm going to finish by saying this. Much of this memo is based on a report that was provided to, not provided, but was published by the Urban Land Institute in conjunction with the Sierra Club, the American Institute of Architects, and the National Multi-Housing Council. Now, when I say specious, that defines it right there. Because what's the Urban Land Institute? It's primarily an organization of real estate developers and real estate capital markets. What is the National Multi-Housing Council? It's an advocacy group for owners and developers of apartment buildings throughout the entire country. The Sierra Club will speak for itself. It's a strange mix we got going on here. And the AIA is architects. They make their money by designing and building stuff. So the basis of the report is a report that was issued by organizations that clearly have special interests at heart. I don't want to go into sites that exist today that have been approved for 55 and plus housing that now would be open to multifamily apartment building. I just don't want to speculate. I think people can probably figure it out. But at the end of the day, remember this, part of that zoning law is these multifamily unit apartment complexes, in order to be in compliance with the old and new zoning laws, need to be adjacent to residential zoning areas, right next to the residential. So that's it. That's it for the moment. But here's my questions. Traditionally, the whole process of planning boards and zoning boards, when it affects, as respects the public, the people, the residents of the town, is a secret process that cuts out the residents until the public hearing. The public hearing, based on all the public hearings I've ever been to, are a joke, okay? It's fait accompli by that time. People come up, say their piece, they make their objections, the vote is either held the next week or that night, and it's always approved. It's a done deal, okay? The last time I went to a public hearing at a zoning board, the zoning board, some folks on the zoning board happened to be this project over in the Hamlet, again, totally different, need a zoning variance, gotta get the 55-plus senior housing taller, gotta allow that. We went to that public hearing, me and my neighbors. We gave all the cases, I mean, during the hearing, people on the board were actually advocating for the variance, which I found to be fascinating, but at the end of the day, all our neighbors sat, said their piece, 10 minutes later, it was approved. This can't happen here. This reshapes this entire town, okay? This is big. This is important. So I just want people to be aware of it now, and most importantly, and I don't even know where to find out, I don't know who to ask, why now? Where did this come from? This memo seemingly dropped out of the sky. What a coincidence. Why? Who asked for it? Who commissioned this memo? Who asked? Presumably, Mr. Cleary is acting on instructions of the planning board. Otherwise, why would he do it? So I would like to know the genesis of this process. And I don't know where to ask. So my only question to you guys is, how do I find that out? Any ideas, thoughts, comments? That's all. That's my only question. I'm just curious. How do I find that out?
Probably ask the planning board, the chairman of the planning board or the planning board members.
Well, I can't do it at any kind of planning board meeting because the members of the public aren't allowed to speak unless it's a public hearing, which this is never going to be.
John,
So I literally don't know how to do this.
John, this has bothered me for I've been following this for about 2 years.
It's been around 2 years.
About 2 years, right, John?
18 months to 2 years.
I stood right there when this board was going to act on this before it went to the planning board. And I wasn't as eloquent as you. And I spoke to this board very forcefully saying, this is a joke. They sent it to the planning board for recommendations. Okay?
I
And to
missed this
review
whole
it,
thing.
Right?
To review it.
To review.
Yeah, to review.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah,
To
and
review.
comments, make comments.
Yeah, comments.
Right.
I didn't say recommend.
Yeah.
I didn't mean recommend.
Comments,
To
right.
send it to the planning board, because that's the board that should be reviewing it.
Mhm.
Well, what I found really strange about the most important piece of legislation that's going in front of the planning board, that there was no audio for that meeting that night. Zero. None. It was broadcast on TV, just visually. You couldn't hear a word. You know, yeah, we're buying new stuff, but I thought that was a little strange. Maybe I'm suspect, you know, to things that happened in this building over the last 20-some-odd years. But that bothered me, and I'll tell you something else that bothered me. The fact that the chairman or no planning board member put that on that agenda that night. I think if you research planning board agendas in the last dozen years, Mr. Cleary's maybe put on less than half a dozen, if that. I think it's the planning board chairman or planning board member that should be putting it on. And also, I'm going to request, I want to know what each planning board member has to say about this project, not Mr. Cleary. I don't believe Mr. Cleary is working in the best interest of the town of Carmel.
Well, if you read this report, there's
No-brainer.
no other conclusion
No-brainer.
that you can come to.
But in all fairness to this entire board, we've had this discussion in executive session, at the end of an executive session, saying, this is insane to even look at this. when we're doing a master plan. So this council person isn't even going to review it, isn't even going to look at it until we have a master plan in
Right.
place.
But my fear is, and again, I'm naive about the process, is that as other things have occurred through planning and zoning boards, it just goes and goes and goes, and similar, I guess, to the appearance of this memo, seemingly out of the sky. I get totally that it's not a new issue, but this,
Just pops up.
are you telling me that Mr. Cleary put this in front of the
I'm not
telling
telling
board
you
on his
anything.
own?
I just found it unusual, and usually my practices with the town of Carmel over the last 25 years, these type of things pop up the day before Thanksgiving or the day before Christmas on the end of the agenda.
Yeah, well, the beginning of a new year.
So I think everybody's looking at this real closely, not just me.
So just as a resident, just a guy who lives here, who do I ask to get the genesis of, in this particular case, why this memo, or who instructed this memo to be prepared, and who had solicited it from the planning board, if any,
Well,
to
I
be
think-
presented that night?
Well, that question I can't answer,
Okay,
but I thought I answered the question. It came here about 2 years ago.
right.
And the existing board at the time rightfully sent it to the planning board
Right.
for review.
No, we never sent it to the planning
It
board.
No,
We did not instruct it to go to planning board.
It was sent to the planning board pursuant to 15676 2 years ago.
Yes, it was.
And there were comments and recommendation made at that point. That I'm certain of.
I stood right there,
We had to.
and I thought it was going to go through, and I said, what?
It's frightening. This is really, like I said, I knew this day was going to
This
come.
is a
I knew
game
it.
changer for the entire town.
The whole town. I mean,
Okay?
it's
The entire town.
mind-blowing. It really
And
is.
being an active real estate player around here and in the town, I will tell you that the property that would be affected by this is probably controlled by less people than the fingers I have on one hand.
Right.
So, John, I just want to mention briefly what Councilman Borelli was saying. We're in the midst of a master plan. And any major changes in the codes, we're going to do the master plan and the code revision. We're dual tracking it. And Greg is going to have the RFQ by
This
the
month.
end of this month.
And possible
And possible zoning
zoning changes.
changes in the zoning law. So what we're going to be doing, just like what we did last year, is we're going to have open meetings for certain subjects, okay, at the meetings where the whole public can come. And last year, we had quite a bit of people coming, because we want to hear the input from the community as to where they want it to go. Multifamily will be one of those discussions, but I'm a firm believer that nothing will be done if it's a large change in the code or in the thing.
It's the
before
entire code.
Before the master plan, because we're going to be spending quite a lot of money on the master plan
And time.
and time on it, and I don't want, my opinion is, I'm just talking for me, that, if we're going to do it, we should do it right, and
Oh, I agree.
that's how I feel. We need the input from the residents. So, we're going to put out a schedule, hopefully for the whole year, of when we're going to be meeting and what different subjects. And if anybody out there has a subject that they want to talk about, send it to, I'll have it to send it to Annie, and then she could forward it to myself and Kenny, and we'll make sure that we have a specific day or night to talk about that.
So just the last question, technical question. So are you saying that there could never be a change to the zoning laws in the absence of the town board? In other words, a change to the zoning law could not occur without the town board approving those changes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I needed to hear.
But not just the zoning law, any change in our code, any change in
Sure.
any.
This is the
Yeah,
legislative body here. Anything in the town code.
Okay,
is this board.
so that's great. I'm very happy to hear, just so that the process is going to be out there, and it's
and
not
it's gonna
going to
be
be in
very-
the dark of the night
It's going to
somewhere.
be open
Okay, that's fine.
and very
Well, you heard-
transparent, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
You heard
And
two
not-
of us say that until we have a master plan in place.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
That's
and it's not just
fantastic.
multifamily, it's everything, because, we started
Right.
talking about this last year, and we're going to do it the right way. and
Yeah.
transparent and include whomever wants to be included.
Yeah, I don't want to get granular on it, but the concept of four-story apartment buildings in this town makes me physically ill, okay? And the only reason that something like that would ever be approved is solely special interest, profit motivation. According to this report, and I'll end here, basically in the town of Carmel at least, the American dream is over. No one can ever afford to buy a single-family home again. The millennials will be living in caves and, in rundown apartment houses all over the Northeast, and so on, and so on, and so on, and the basis of the whole report. And that's why I say it's specious. You read this and, well, that's interesting, and then you kind of look at it holistically and sit back and say, this is absurd. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So anyway,
You also could build it without water and sewer. There's well water.
again, there's so much to this,
So much.
So I have,
The one that's in
I have
front of
another
the-
topic. Do I have to sit down and come back up?
I'll just make a comment in regards to what you had said about your experience with public hearings. And
Yes.
I will say, if you followed the public hearings of this town board, we've modified a few proposed law changes, code changes, based on feedback we've gotten at these public hearings. We've held votes over. We've made multiple public hearings available to address items of concern. So we're very, very, very much in tune to getting feedback from the public. So there will definitely be open meetings, discussions in regards to this, to get all the feedback very similarly or constructive.
I couldn't agree more. It just seems that, and maybe, I'm just remembering what I want to remember, but when it comes to major real estate type projects that can impact the entire town, there's been tons of people that come up to public, and it just seems to be what it was going to be right at the very beginning. But again, that's just me. So I have a totally different topic. Do I have to sit down and come back?
No, you stay.
No more steps? Okay, great. So, as you may anticipate, this is the third meeting, and this has to do with the water quality or lack thereof in the Kelly Ridge area, Everett Road, St. Michael's Terrace, Hillside Place. Again, a neighborhood that's serviced solely by Fair Street, which has been affirmed by the Commissioner of Highways for Putnam County as being the worst road in Putnam County. So, having said all of that, we know we've discussed the water quality issues. We know we have problems with the storage tank. And tonight, we were going to hopefully just affirm that a report has been received by the consultant as to the distribution system, the condition of the system, and whatever else is contained in the report.
Hasn't been received by us yet, but it is on the agenda for the 13th.
What is
It'll
it?
be,
An agenda for what?
Work session agenda will be an item that the town engineer and consultant and the engineer will be presenting their findings and a report on the 13th. So be here for that.
Yeah,
And reports will be made
Can't wait.
available for everybody then.
Yeah.
can't wait. I was gonna go on vacation, I've already paid for it, but I'm gonna cancel it and lose all the money to be there on the 13th.
Okay. Terrific, John.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Is there anyone else here for open forum, new business? Come on up this time.
Hi, Jean Hopper, Mayapack. Oh, that's high up. How's everybody?
Good, good. How are you?
Yes. I just had gotten some information about a project on Route 6, and I think you had alluded to something about that, Mr. Borelli, that something did go by our planning board, that was passed by our town planning board, and it proposed something about the municipal water and sewer that are not needed. Instead, we'll use common water and common septic. This is on Route 6. Is that something you guys are familiar with?
Which project is it, Gene? Do you have a name?
It says Baldwin Place. That's all I have.
Route 6
I'm
in
assuming it's that,
Baldwin
I thought it was this, something you had given us several months ago.
I
I
can't
can't
see
I
that.
remember Mary Ellen Odell was here. Isn't that the time we talked about this whole Route 6 corridor thing with
You're
the
talking
water
about-
and the
you're talking
sewer
about
and all
Union
that?
Place and
big-
all the property across from Acme?
From where?
Are you talking about the big empty, the 100 acres, 200
Yes.
acres?
The farm?
The farm,
Right.
Mayapack Farm,
Mayapack Farm?
and the property behind it.
Right.
Union Place. That was the project that was proposed before the planning board.
Right, okay, so that was approved
No, it was never in front of the planning board. It was,
Nothing's in front of the planning
or passed by the town
was
planning board to
publicly
be sent to the
advertised,
town
like,
board for approval.
12 years
That's-
ago.
That's not true. Okay. Just want to make sure that I have that information
What's
correct.
actually your question?
That they had talked about sewer and water lines and all kinds of stuff on Route 6, but this is saying that, you know, perhaps this development can use common water and common septic.
I think it's the same thing that
You're
Mr.
talking about
Butler
the
was
same
talking
thing
about.
that John was just talking about?
That's why I was asking him. Yeah, I believe that's the same thing.
As it's proposed,
Mhm.
it would fit perfectly into that property.
Right.
And if it's done in sections, it could probably be done, most of it, without sewer and water.
Okay, so I guess I'm misunderstanding. When we were here with Ms. Odell, weren't we talking about a whole water sewer
We're talking about
system?
sewer-
We were
Right.
talking about
Sewer
combining
main.
everything.
Right.
The
But-
sewer main.
So doesn't that kind of kill that project? I mean, if
The
they're talking,
the sewer main out of
Somers.
Somers was dead before it even came here.
okay,
Right.
so that's no good. All right. The meeting dates of the planning board, are they coinciding with these meetings? Why is that?
Because there aren't any Friday scheduled meetings, and there's only so many nights that we have to double up on boards having a meeting.
They have
Court on
court-
Monday.
they have court
Court on Monday and
nights.
Tuesday night.
Yes.
Was it always this way?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
court fills
Yeah, I'd
the
rather
place
see
up.
like ECB and the
have
ZBA
a room.
meeting on the same night, but
Is there a way that could be
Yeah.
changed? I mean, there's a lot going on now. You're talking about master plans and stuff like that, and people want to be at both meetings, and I know that people run in and out of the rooms, and you're missing information. I can't possibly be here and be there at the same time.
Well, the master
Master
plan
plans will be their own.
No, I understand that, but any
Their
kind of
own
planning
thing.
for the town, shouldn't residents be able to attend both?
To attend both, what, the planning board and the
And
zoning-
town board
and
meetings,
town
And the
board.
right.
town board
You're
meetings.
having it the
If they-
same nights.
If they want, they could, and
Uh,
see how
where-
many people don't come, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish more people
Well, I'm one of
came.
them. I'm one of them. I'd
You
love
know?
to attend a lot of stuff on the agenda, coming up,
Yeah.
as we know, with cell towers and all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff.
Gina, was just, this came up
Yeah.
years ago, that we spoke about this topic, about having the planning board meeting and the town board meeting on separate nights, different nights. But Monday and Tuesday nights, Justice Court is held here. They need the full room, the doors open. Wednesday night, we meet.
Right?
The zoning board meets the third Thursday, I think it is, of the month.
Okay.
Greg?
Third Thursday.
Third Thursday
Third Thursday of the month.
of the month. And
ECB.
And ECB, first and third ECB, it was just a scheduling issue where we couldn't fit all the meetings on separate nights, separate dates and times.
Okay.
Just,
It's just something that perhaps we could
It-
really
you-
revisit and really,
it's a great point, and it's something I wish that we could figure out how we can do that, get it done. So,
You need another building.
we need,
We need another
Yeah,
building.
yeah.
We need another building,
Yeah.
have another
It's
meeting
been brought
hall.
up
with another building, we
many
You- I
times.
think
Friday
you
night,
brought it up.
Saturday night,
I
Sunday,
actually
it's-
brought it up 10 years
Yeah.
well,
ago.
we have our library and other buildings. There's no other facility that we could have this at?
have the
at-
town board meeting at, our
Or the
meetings?
planning board, something? I mean, there are
Everything
other
that
facilities. We
pertains
don't
to
need
them comes
to
in
build
and-
another
in and
building,
out
is
of
what I'm
this
saying. We
building.
have other
It-
buildings that maybe we could use.
Oh, we don't have any, well, the only facility that we could perhaps have it at, you said it, is the library.
Right.
but I don't think we probably wouldn't want to bring a town meeting to the library.
No, not the town, but maybe the planning?
Oh,
That's
That-
town.
But it would still be the
Town.
same night,
It's
now different
town.
locations.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Okay, something to think about.
We have to start working on Friday nights, but then you know we're never gonna see anyone from the public.
No.
You're not gonna get volunteers
I'll be
for
here.
the boards.
you
That's
won't
true.
go.
I was gonna say,
Definitely
I'll
won't get
come.
anyone to come in for a
I'll come.
$1,000 stipend for.
I'll be here Friday.
26 meetings.
yeah.
On
And-
Friday?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll come Friday nights.
All right.
Our Legion Hall, Bucks Hollow, any
Yeah.
news on the restrooms?
Ongoing, we're close. We are waiting for, Greg, can you just give a quick, brief update on it?
We had
Anything?
a conference probably, I think, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I provided some additional documentation to council, and I'm waiting to hear back.
So
We
still
had-
just
well,
kind of,
we had a conference call with myself, Greg Fulchetti, the attorney for the property owner, and the property owner.
and this was when?
3 weeks
Sorry.
ago?
3 weeks ago.
I want to say.
About 3 weeks ago?
probably
Yeah.
the 10th?
It was, yeah, something like that.
3 weeks ago.
Could have been the 8th.
Yeah,
probably the
so
first one.
Greg and I provided the information that the attorney representing the property owner was looking for.
Right.
He has all of that now. We're just waiting on.
More information
more
than they wanted.
information of them to get back to us.
Still didn't have
on-
enough information, right?
It was information regarding a maintenance easement, so the highway department can actually go in and replace the pipe, the stormwater pipe.
Because we had this conversation
We did.
last year.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
It's
Right.
year,
This
it's,
conversation a
For
year
the
and a half
past-
ago.
it's
Right.
years.
past
2 years
few
ago,
years.
3 years
Right.
ago.
It's the same thing, and then we get to the 12th hour, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, nope,
I just,
the same
it
old
just
thing.
sits in my craw. If I were, if it were me and I didn't have a bathroom, I don't know, I'd be flipping out paying my taxes. I don't understand. You're saying it's because the deed on the other property owner didn't list the line?
It's private property with some
There's
legal
a private dispute
items.
between them. The town's attempted to facilitate it in helping our highway department handle a drainage issue also. But the genesis of that dispute goes decades and
Right.
decades back.
this is, Jeannie, this is
No, I know.
years
Oh, I know.
that I've been trying to
Yeah.
get this done, and it's been very difficult. It's painful.
It is painful.
It's worse than root canal. It really is.
And then something that you had mentioned, I think it was the last meeting, not last week because you didn't have one, but it was the prior week, about a water storage tank, that there was an assessment done in 2014 on that tank. So who requested the assessment?
Oh, we did.
The town.
Yeah, the town did. Yeah, the engineering department. We had assessments done on all of our water storage tanks,
Okay.
and
And what was
that
the,
that one was rated as poor
as poor?
by the company. It was Pennsylvania Tank Company, I believe, that did the assessment. Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. And what's the follow-up on that? Once an
Well-
assessment gets done and the rating is poor, what happens?
Well, what's happening right now, I can tell you, is the town engineer is doing at the request of the town board, is doing an analysis of that particular tank. He's researching the cost.
Again, because this is the second time we've done it, right?
It's not an
Is
evaluation.
this a different tank?
It's the same tank.
The next
It's
tank.
Everett Road
Okay.
tank. It's the next step. That he's, we're trying to get cost, he's doing cost analysis of what it would be to replace that tank.
To replace it now.
Perhaps would
Replace
be
it.
to replace that particular tank on that location, so.
I'm just curious,
More
for
to
the
come.
taxpayer, how much does an assessment like that cost? What does that cost the town when a company like Pittsburgh or whoever you mentioned comes in and does an assessment on a tank like that?
Well, it all depends on how much work you're asking them to do.
Well,
but that-
whatever
but
you
that
ask,
money-
just the assessment.
But, how much?
We paid as a group for all the water districts.
Yeah.
Split the cost among the districts. In
The tanks-
2014, I think it was between $20,000 and $30,000
Yeah.
for the assessment. That's
Yeah,
not
so-
my vote.
Per
That-
tank.
That assessment, how
No,
many,
for the-
how many did that cover? Because that wasn't just the one
There was
tank.
5 tanks.
No, there's 5 tanks.
5 tanks in separate districts, yeah, throughout the town.
So you're saying it's about $20,000 or $30,000 to do just the assessment on those 5
Yeah.
tanks? Okay. I'm just mentioning it because, you're spending that money on an assessment, and then where does it go? It just, the information is, there's the assessment, it's poor, and we'll just sit on that for a few years and
That was
I just,
valuable information that we needed to determine the condition of our tanks.
right,
It was important, but I understand what you're saying, though, Jeannie, that, we got that in 2014, and that tank was indicated that it was in poor condition
Right.
then. And now it's fast forward to 2019, and it's still in poor condition.
right. And in those 5 years,
Those 5 years, the tank, patches,
All Band-Aids.
yeah,
Repaired, yeah.
so,
so
In
there were
hindsight-
patches on that particular tank?
yes.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm only mentioning this tank because it was brought up 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a steel tank, it's 42
And how much were
years
those
old.
patches, and do
When
we
you
have any
see,
idea?
when you see something on the agenda that you saw tonight, where we
Is that what I
approve
think so?
repairs, and I think tonight was like 30,000 in water too.
I don't know, I totaled 63,000.
It falls in that category.
All right. Well, thanks. I just want to kind of get that Legion Hall bathroom.
Yeah,
So do
good
we.
toilet.
point.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks,
You know-
guys.
Thank you.
Jeannie, government moves so darn slow. It
But-
really
but it's
does.
not- but
And
it's
it's not
not
always
us.
us, it's
It's
not
not
always,
us.
no, I'm
No,
saying
no,
that,
no,
but
no,
anything
Susie, I
in general,
understand. I
just
know,
a-
I understand what he's
he's
saying.
saying
just a
government,
general
I'm just
statement.
like-
It-
Right,
it
no,
does.
absolutely.
And we don't like it, we don't agree with it, we
Yeah.
don't like it, you
Yeah.
know, and,
I wouldn't
It's
like it either. If I
unfortunate.
were paying taxes and I didn't have a flushing toilet, I wouldn't like it either.
yeah. And that particular case,
Thanks,
that,
guys.
Yeah.
that's very troublesome.
It is
That
very
bothers
troublesome.
me
And we've had a few
tremendously.
stories on it, and it just kind of
The American Legion,
fills the paper, but nothing really happens. It's very sad.
Yeah.
you
It
know?
is. It's gonna get done. It will get done. Sooner than later, we hope. But we're gonna keep pushing till it gets done.
We're going to try to
We,
keep
we,
assisting.
we
We'll
keep,
assist
yeah,
you.
this is not like a person's house, like doesn't, the toilet doesn't work, and then the government should come in and fix their toilet. I mean, this is a private matter that we're trying to figure out if we could help.
We're trying to help them.
By, if we're doing another project in a similar area, could we piggyback assistance?
Right.
This is not like that the town doesn't want to help, but this is a private matter.
Oh, absolutely.
Two private matters, so.
Yeah,
so-
no one
so
is
you-
implying that the
I
town
understand you
doesn't
say,
wanna
like,
help.
we're paying taxes, so I should have flushing toilet. It's really not it's not a one-to-one.
It's not something,
I-
not something we,
I
John's
understand.
frustration is not something we can control.
My
No, I
my neighbor's
understand
toilet,
that.
my
It would've been
my
fixed.
neighbor's toilet doesn't work. I can't through this town board go fix his toilet. It's against the law. It's
Well,
to
no
give
one,
the
no
public
one is
funds.
saying, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, you know, these are both entities, the previous, the guy who bought that property has a line, a sewer line under his property that was not listed on the deed, from what I understand. Now, where does that onus fall? Does that fall on the town? I mean, who does the deed?
Probably attorneys
No,
75
the-
years ago.
It pre-existed
Attorney.
the code.
It has nothing to do with the town.
It's pre-19.
Well, I understand
It has
that.
nothing to do with the town.
I understand that, but I'm just, it's also not the person's fault who has to replace their sewer line. They're trying to, I'm
think
just
it
trying
may
to hope
actually-
that we can get to some sort of agreement with these people.
Does this go back to New York
just-
Railroad?
Yes, it does. It's
I
in the
think
railroad.
it's just it's such an unfortunate situation and a
Right.
culmination of events
No,
for
and,
almost a
and there's been
century.
other situations that, you know, we've seen and heard people come and say, this happened 45 years ago, the deed was wrong, or this was that, needs an adjustment, or an easement, or whatever. So I'm just hoping we can get there sooner rather than later
and
for
just-
the Legion Hall.
I
That's
agree
all.
with you. And a point of clarity, when I said government moves slow, it wasn't in reference to the American Legion
No,
project.
I
I
understand
wasn't
that.
referencing that.
I get
Oh, you did? I'm sorry.
I'm
I-
like,
No,
"Gee,
yeah.
Every other project.
No,
We get
I'm
that.
talking about all the other projects.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm talking about the water tank. and
Bureaucracy,
other-
no, we get
That
that.
I agree with
It
you.
was not,
Yes.
I'm sorry
He's
if
giving
I,
his challenger
agree
with
that.
information.
Yes.
And I'm not expecting the town to step in and fix anyone's
I wish
sewer,
we-
toilet system. That's not what I'm implying at
I
all.
wish we
Just
could.
want to correct that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Chief. Is there anyone else that would like to come up at this time? New business, open forum portion of the meeting? Come on up. Okay, all right. There being none, does the board have any announcements?
Water District 2, please come out next week. We're going to have an engineering report on coupons that we've been
Yeah.
waiting for, and it's
12th or the
the
13th?
beginning
12, Tuesday.
of a very long process, unfortunately, but we need a lot of information. I think one thing that I'd like to see us start working on, as we talk about our distribution systems, our water treatment plants, our sewage treatment plants, our water holding tanks, we really need to get an asset inventory for all of our water and sewer districts. We have to stop doing Band-Aid emergency repair jobs. We have to start being proactive instead of retroactive. And the first thing we need to do is get an inventory of everything we have. I hope Water District 2 comes out in numbers next week. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be extremely bad news. I don't want to be a damper, but I don't think anything is going to come out with unicorns and rainbows on that report next week. So it'll be imperative to get as many members of Water District 2 out here as you can. Because there's going to be... Yeah, my concern is, how many linear feet are we talking? If 10,000 cost us 1.2 million, and we now have possibly 10 times that amount, we're talking about a massive burden on everybody who's going to be in Water District 2, because it's not, no offense, it's not going to hit me. I'm not in Water District 2. This is something that is very specific to Water District 2, and I'm fearful for what's going to happen to those special district rates for the taxpayers in the Hamlet of Carmel between water and sewer, and right now, water is on the front line. Next week is going to be a report that's going to be very, very important for many years to come for how much your tax burden is going to be for anyone who's a resident of Water District 2. For which part? All of what you just said. Every town board for the last 60 years. Absolutely.
John, the meeting's going to be very similar to the last one, where we borrowed the 2.2 million, I believe, 2 million. for what we're doing now?
2.2.
And I said it that night,
Right.
that this is a project that's gonna take $15 to $25 million to fix.
No, he's talking about the municipal
And
water main replacement.
since I've said that, interest rates went up 4 times. So it's imperative to get your neighbors out, because you keep patching it, you're paying more money. In the end, you're gonna pay double. You have a water tank,
We gotta get the serfs with the pitchforks to come and storm the castle, I guess. So, all the serfs will come and
it's just,
come from their jobs.
John said it perfectly. We can't emphasize how important this is to the people in water too, because you're talking about big bucks. You either wanna keep piecemealing it, or, we fix it all.
And again, this is only the distribution. We're still waiting to get back the water treatment plant.
Right.
Massive,
So we need-
massive expenses.
Stating the obvious, but we're talking about water.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's quality, this is the,
Sounds like we're having a third world conversation here, that, we can appeal to some charity to come and dig wells for us.
you're 100% correct. One thing that I noticed when I was serving overseas, one thing that I noticed is the one thing that really separates us as a very civilized country from countries of the third world is the ability to bring clean water in and to get waste out. That's what's supposed to separate us. And unfortunately, this is a nationwide issue, the infrastructure. You can take a look across every major city in the United States right now, and one of the largest concerns you have are either water distribution, natural gas distribution, or the way you're removing your waste from your municipalities. This is something that is going to cost, and I mean trillions upon trillions of dollars across every U.S. taxpayer, because infrastructure without clean water and without solid waste removal, we will be stepping back to a time of centuries ago. We have to put money into it, and unfortunately, we as a town do not have the ability to print money. The state does not have the ability to print money, and the only ones who can do it are the federal government. We heard last night that they're going to talk about infrastructure, and I pray for the future of our communities, not just the town of Carmel, but I pray the federal government does something to seriously address water quality. If we didn't see the problems happening from Flint, Michigan, we're going to hear them coming through Philadelphia. They still have water that is distributed through wooden pipes from 1700s. There are massive issues that are going to face every American that is on a municipal system. We have to address them, and again, I think the best thing we could do as a town for our constituents is start with this asset inventory report so we know what we're working with. Without knowing what our baseline is, it's very difficult to come up with a long-term game plan that's not filled with patchwork left and right. So I really do hope that we have a packed room, standing room only next week. I hope that there's more of a turnout for this than there was for budgets 6 years ago that we saw. It's imperative.
Well, you know what, there'll be a turnout, and you better have the report, because I'm personally going to be disseminating this thing to over 200 households where I live. You better have it, and you better be prepared to be accountable. And I don't care about assets, inventories, or anything else. This is a health and safety issue. All I'm hearing
Yeah.
is white noise, and now we're talking about the feds.
John.
It's got to be fixed, and all I just want to.
No, I was good. Come up to the mic so that people can hear you.
Okay, I will. As I said a couple of weeks ago, we know we have a problem. We know we don't have a healthy water supply. We know it needs to be fixed. We know it's going to cost a bloody fortune. And again, as I said the other week, all we're asking you guys to do is your job to facilitate what needs to be done so that we can pay for it. Okay, so asset inventories, big reports, all you're talking about is more time, more time, more time, and a year later we'll be like, now we got to do this. We have dirty water. I'm just going to, we're talking about the tank. We had the discussion a couple of weeks ago. If 5 years ago that tank was relined for $200,000 or $300,000, I think it was agreed upon that we would have been saving $2 or $3 million. So now we're talking about a distribution system. And I get the economy of scale concept. I get it. You do more, you save money. But at the same time, you can't sit around saying we got to have yet another report and inventories and federal government, et cetera, while people are subjected to dirty water. It's, like I said, I mean, this is a third world issue. We have a town of 34,000 people. We're not New York City, we're not Flint, we're not Yonkers, we're not LA. We're 34,000 people in the town of Carmel. It's not a big place. And we should be addressing these things proactively and aggressively. And yes, we'll have a meeting with the pitchforks, but I don't know what's going to happen after that, because the people are going to be sitting there saying, wait a sec, because they're going to find out in my neighborhood all about this in the course of the next week. They're going to get little things talking about tanks and leaks and so on and so forth. And they're going to be sitting there with their water bills going, "Well, I don't pay mine, we all know that. But it's like, what's this is all about? And you're talking about taking inventories. What? Fix it. Fix it. Fix it. Don't talk. Don't report. Fix it. So I'm glad I had this opportunity yet again. I'm
Thanks,
sure
John.
everyone is incredibly bored with me. I am. Bore myself.
If you don't mind coming up to the, thank you.
To your point on infrastructure, absolutely, I agree.
Speaking,
Sorry.
we have a problem
sure.
with our,
It's an issue. No, to your point, though, I would agree in that things need to get done, but I think when it comes to spending a certain amount of money, there needs to be an education process around why there needs to be infrastructure improvements. That's what I work in right now, and honestly, the single hardest thing to get anybody to do, especially government, and the constituents in which it represents, is to have people understand exactly what it is that they're spending money on. Right? Throwing money at an issue and saying fix it isn't necessarily as useful as the community understanding why it needs to be fixed.
Because the water is dirty.
Agreed.
And the distribution system and the storage tank are,
We have
Adam?
executive session.
Adam? No,
we're not throwing money at something.
Adam,
No, no.
you
Agreed.
just address the board. There shouldn't be a dialogue between yourselves. All right,
No, so
okay.
no, it's okay. My point actually, I think, is that a situation like that where you're actually looking at the assets themselves and doing an inventory of it is critical in order to understand what needs to be done. For any major project, right, infrastructure or otherwise, what needs to be done is you need to look at existing infrastructure and say, okay, these are the items that need to be repaired, why do they need to be repaired, and who are the people that are going to be most impacted by it.
And it can-
Otherwise, the discussion itself is irrelevant.
And it can be dual tracked. I mean, and it's not just for Carmel Water too. It's for the entire town of Carmel. You know, we all want to fix the water, and that's, you know, in my mind, it's going to be done. It's going to be fixed. But I also believe that we do have to look at the whole thing for the future. But certainly, right away, get the water fixed in the hamlet.
Right,
We
yeah,
have
just to clarify,
We have to.
the coupons are going to be acted upon. We do not
Yeah.
need an asset inventory
No.
report of
Right.
every water
Yeah.
district and sewer
And I
district to
don't
say
think
we
that
have
that's what
this
you were
report.
alluding
No,
to.
no, not at all.
I
And I'm
don't
sorry
think
for any
Councilman
confusion that may have been
Lupinacci-
there.
Councilman Schneider was alluding to, oh, no, now we're going to do an asset management for Carmel Water too. No, we're going to do, we'd like to do an asset management for all infrastructure.
Guys, I apologize, because it is very good dialogue, but we actually have an attorney waiting to get online. The other executive session.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
I
Thank
do
you.
apologize,
Thanks for coming
but
out.
it's 8:30 and the attorney is waiting to get
Yeah.
the conference
Okay.
call the last,
Yep.
All right,
so.
all right.
Anything else?
Yeah, I just have one announcement. Carmel Town Hall will be closed Tuesday, February 12th. That's this coming Tuesday, February 12th, 2019, in observance of Lincoln's birthday. And then on Monday, February 18th, 2019, in observance of President's Day. So Tuesday, February 12th will be closed, and Monday, February 18th will be closed for those two President's holidays. We do have executive session, as Councilman Lupinacci mentioned, with Rob Giudice from Jackson Lewis, Mike Simone, Highway Superintendent, to discuss a personnel matter with Councilwoman McDonough. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Seconded by Councilman Lupinacci. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night, everyone. Be well. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Close the meeting in executive session.
We're closing from executive session. We're not coming back out here.
Got it.
Got it. Good night. Kill the tape. Hey, Dave.